Hello, this is Skim. I am Scott.
I'm Kim.
And we wanted to come and make another video this morning, just briefly talking about conflict resolution and how we're realizing, even after 28 years of being married, that the vast majority of the time where we get into it, it's a simple misunderstanding, but we're so busy being defensive that it really spirals in the wrong direction. And my friend Whitney once told me, he said that the best people, when things get heated, instead of being defensive, they'll get curious. Like, why is this happening? Why is this person having this reaction? Mm-hmm. And by having that attitude, instead of defending yourself, saying, why is this happening? What's going on? You can get to the kind of the root of the misunderstanding very quickly and disarm the whole situation. So we wanted to talk to you about a situation we had
just the other day
that's in hindsight is like comical, but at the time it was not funny at all. But we wanted to talk about some of these concepts like within context of this particular conflict, and we thought it might be helpful.
Well, and the other thing too is being able to, like, the person who's not upset is the person that needs to be able to say, you know, maybe a key phrase like, okay, we need to work through the process, or something to
like switch it from defensive mode into curious mode, or for what term, let's see, would you use? It's like we go into a mode where we're defensive, but we need to snap out of that and be more curious. Like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Why is things going downhill so rapidly? So if you kind of use a phrase, and you can develop your own phrase with your spouse to say, oh, I recognize stress levels in the voice just went up, body language just went bad. What just happened?
Like your favorite line from iRobot?
Yeah. And iRobot, where the robot comes in and says, I noticed that there is elevated stress levels in your voice. Is everything okay? That always cracked me up, because like, oh, I need to use that.
So having the wherewithal to see that.
Yeah, and it's hard to do that when you're in the thick of it.
Yes.
That's why the person who's not offended needs to probably be the one who, steps in and kind of triggers that mechanism that gets you out of the defensive mode into the curious mode. So
you're going to just walk them through what happened the other day? Or?
Yeah, let's both, just as we kind of remember the situation. So Kim and I were trying a new kind of exercise or an outside event, and that is disc golf or frisbee golf. We'd never done it before, and we thought, hey, what a great way to get outside, get some exercise. Well, I've never done it. She's never done it. Now, I've played golf, so there's some similarities there. And so we're out there, and
it's beautiful.
It's a gorgeous day. It's really shaping up to be an awesome thing. Hole number one, after doing a little bit of practice, we're just going to go for it. And so, we're one hole into this thing, and we're counting how many times we throw. And about halfway through it, I'm like, oh, well, you're two ahead of me. And from there, it's like that was completely misunderstood by Kim.
Yeah. So at that point, when you said you're two ahead of me, I thought you were basically saying I was taking two turns, like out of turn. Yeah. And so I felt almost like you're basically accusing me of, I guess, cheating.
Yeah.
So I could feel my anger. I don't know if you guys do this, but when you get upset, my anger just kind of like rises up to here. And I'm thinking, I'm not cheating. And number two, I felt like you were the one telling me, okay, it's your turn to go. So that's why I was confused as to,
Now imagine this, folks.
It's really dumb.
And again, in hindsight, this seems completely silly. So being in golf, whoever is furthest away is the one who goes.
And see, I didn't know that.
So she has no framework to work from. This is a given for me because of my background, but I didn't understand. She didn't know that. So when I was like, okay, your turn, it's because she was away. So when I said, oh, okay, well, you're a two ahead of me, I was just simply stating her score. I wasn't like accusing her of cheating or anything, but her having no context to work from, she got real defensive and thought I was saying that she was cheating.
Well,
So
then I was like, I don't understand, and so I wanted you to explain it again. But by that point, you know how you always say body language is like
yeah,
70% of communication.
yeah,
Your body language at that point was getting annoyed. So
yeah.
then
So
when
I'm like, what is your problem? See, because I'm doing the same thing. I'm getting defensive because I'm like, um, it took you two to get to where I was. That's one extra one, and I count it back for her,
I still
like,
wasn't getting
and
it.
I'm sure my face was like this, like you're two ahead of me, you know.
Yes, it was exactly
So
like
so
that.
my body language, I'm getting defensive because it's like, what's your problem? I'm just saying that you're two ahead. I'm at a loss here. Why she's getting so upset because I don't realize. See, because this is after the fact. We now, through speaking it through and doing conflict resolution,
Mhm.
we now know that what she was feeling was defensive because she thought I was accusing her of like cheating,
Mhm.
which I wasn't at all. But see, we didn't know that because we weren't communicating clearly. It was a simple misunderstanding
Yeah.
that was at the root of this whole thing that we didn't get to until like how many
Well,
minutes of like it getting intense there for a
Yeah,
minute.
so it got to the point where I kept asking you to explain it, and you were like, let's just go, let's just move on, let's just whatever. And I think a lot of times you think that's better, just to like, let's just go on. And I'm still trying to figure out what was even like what I did, like messed it up. So I wasn't ready to move on. He was ready to move on. And that's what even made me more angry, was like, okay, I'm not going to just say, let's just move on.
Yeah,
So
because there's a part of me going, oh my gosh, here we go. This is gonna be like a big. I'm just trying to do the avoid the conflict thing, which is not healthy and would not have been good. Because then the rest of the day is basically shot. Because even if she just goes along with it and continues,
which is what I would have done in the past.
deep down she's
But
not happy.
Yeah, and
this is not going to be a good day because now her attitude, my attitude, is going to be horrible for the rest of the day. And guess what? We're on hole number one.
Yeah. So, and then of course I'm thinking, oh great, this is a new thing that we're trying to do together, and this is how it starts. But so then at some point it continued to escalate, and I was getting even more angry, to the point where I was very inappropriate, and I started calling him names.
We won't say what those names were because we would then have to bleep things.
No, well, it wasn't that bad, no, but it was definitely inappropriate, and to the point where there was a guy that was walking his dog past us, and I didn't realize it, and he's just like,
but then but fortunately, we were able to just take a deep breath, calm down.
No, you actually were the one that kind of like de-escalated it, because you took a step back and it kind of explained what you were thinking.
Yeah, at that point, when the name calling started,
in times
past, I would have been right there with her. Oh, you're gonna call me names? Here's some names for you, and here's what you're doing right now. But just something in my heart. I guess I've grown enough. In this particular instance, it's not every time that I'm the perfect one, but it just so happened in this particular time, I was like, okay, I could jump right on this bandwagon and go the old route, and this would spiral into the crazy cycle, and it's going to get really bad. But I just took a deep breath and I said, okay, I'm definitely not going to go with her to this level. And then by taking a step back, taking a deep breath, and then just asking the question, how do we end up here? Then cooler heads kind of prevailed, and then we were able to spiral it down.
You were able to de-escalate
it instead of like spiraling it up and making it worse.
Well, yeah, because and I think we had talked about this later, like when we had our admin meeting or our family meeting, is we thought you should have probably at that point said, we need to work through the process, or whatever it is that
to kind of snap it out of the emotional kind of process into more of a cerebral, wait a minute, let's analyze this to see where we went wrong. And what's really interesting about it is once we did do that and we stepped back and said, wait, how do we go wrong here? How are we miscommunicating? How do we get here? It's like, okay, when I was saying you're two ahead, that's when it came out later. She said, oh, I thought you were accusing me of cheating. I said, no. I was saying, because the one who's furthest away goes first, you're just simply ahead of me in throws. And then it was like,
I didn't know that, but I think the point that Whitney said comes into play at this point.
Yeah.
Is the
Yeah.
being curious.
Yeah, and that's what Whitney was saying to me. You know, he was saying, you know, instead of getting defensive, get curious. It's like, oh, and even myself, it's like, ooh, I just felt really attacked there. Why did I feel attacked? Or, you know what, I really got defensive. Why am I being defensive? It's almost like you've got to be curious as to why you're reacting the way you are to kind of deconstruct that.
And the other person has to be curious. Like I think after talking it through, you know, at our family meeting, if I would have, when you first told me that part about, you know, you are too ahead of me or whatever like that, I forgot how you phrased it. At that point, I could feel my anger rising because I felt like, oh, okay, he's telling me that I'm cheating somehow, but he's the one that's told me when to go. If I would have at that point been curious and said, okay, first of all, why am I feeling this way? And then second of all, if I would have asked you, I guess in a more of a curious manner, like, okay, this is what I'm feeling, but what are you trying to say at that point? You know what I mean? It would have been, we would have nipped it right then.
We would have diffused it because we would have understood the misunderstanding. Yeah. Because at its core, the misunderstanding was she felt I was actually accusing her of cheating when in fact I was just stating what the score was. Right. And so that simple misunderstanding, once you understand it, it's like, oh, there's absolutely no conflict here. Yeah. There's no conflict here whatsoever once there's an understanding. Right. So that's where becoming curious instead of defensive is very, very helpful in a situation. So the takeaway for this video is when you feel attacked, when you feel defensive, you have to stop for half a second and say, wait a minute, why am I feeling this way? Oh, I'm feeling, you know, accused, or I'm feeling shamed, or I'm feeling whatever it is. You have to get to the root of that real quick and say, oh, hey, by the way, I'm having a bad reaction to what you're saying. So are you saying this? And now you're asking probing questions, and that gives the other person the ability to clarify the language. Or
if you're the other person who is seeing you know, your spouse or partner or whoever, looking like they're getting angry, that's when you can say to them and be curious. Like, I see that you're, you know, from your body language, you're upset. Can you kind of explain to me? You know, I'm trying to understand you. Yeah. So again, that, you know, for both sides being curious.
Yeah, both sides being curious can instead of defensive, can get you to the heart of the issue and defuse the situation very quickly.
So happy to say we were able to continue the rest of the disc golf.
And we had a wonderful time.
We had a wonderful time.
Not that we did very well at the Frisbee golf.
That's very hard,
but it was a beautiful day. We got great exercise. And,
but in times past, that would have ruined the day, probably the rest of the next several days.
And who knows if we'd ever went Frisbee golfing again. But so there is, be patient.
Just be encouraged.
Be encouraged. Be inquisitive and curious instead of defensive, and you'll disarm the conflict very quickly and get to the heart of the misunderstanding, and you'll be able to quickly resolve it, save the day.
Yeah, because you're not brushing it under the rug. You know, you are dealing with it, and that's the most healthy way to approach stuff. So
hopefully that helps you. And this is Skim, and we are out.
We'll talk to you guys later.